we get things recorded. But hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. So happy to have you here today. My name is Tahil Sharma, and I'm the program director at the Interfaith Center at Miami University. We're really excited to have you all here. For those of you that haven't been to an event at the Interfaith Center before, this iteration of the center has been around for 12 years. Historically, the Interfaith Center was first the Wesley Foundation. It then became an ecumenical place for gathering as the United Campus Ministry. And back in 2012, the center came together to focus its mission more on interfaith cooperation, dialogue, and engaging some of the deeper conversations about what motivates us to do good work. And we're very excited in sort of 14 years of history for the organization that we continue to do programming virtually and in person. But we're super excited to have some really important conversation today on what it means to sort of navigate the world in uncertain times and to make sure that we are finding place for grounding. That's why today's event on meditation and wellness during uncertain times is meant for a really, really chaotic time, just as this moment calls us to be in. We know that many things may be happening around the world, many things may be happening to us personally and professionally, and yet we find it kind of challenging to be able to find some room for spiritual growth and fulfillment or some sense of purpose and interconnectedness in the world. Which is why we're super excited that one of our board members at the Interfaith Center, Mirle, is here to be able to present on this topic from his background being in more professional spaces that are more corporate in a sense, to actually finding a way to think about this work as something that can be integrated into our everyday lives. So without further ado, Shriji, I'll pass it over to you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that introduction, Tahil. Thank you also to Becca for suggesting that I do this. And I'm really happy to make this very interactive. Perhaps I'll be preaching to the choir in some sense, but we'll all learn from each other and enrich each other. So I saw this on a bumper sticker in Belgium when I was driving in Brussels, actually. And I quickly took a picture because I thought this kind of epitomizes what I'm trying to say. The more we meditate rather than medicate is good for our wellness. Of course, we do need medicines, nothing wrong, but perhaps meditation might be another way to address whatever is the trouble in the world and our own outlook towards those troubles. Having said that, let's just start with what we call a micro practice. It's a minute to arrive, and it means that we just collect ourselves, both physically, mentally. So I'd ask you, if you don't mind, to just sit up straight and just kind of bring yourself to a place of calm within yourself. And this is just a minute, so we can close our eyes if we like, just remembering that we can be fully present, fully vulnerable, fully available to ourselves and others. We've all probably been running around, we've probably been doing a lot of different things. And that's all in the past. The past will inform us. And we may have things to do after that, after this session. And we know that the future will unfold as it will. But for now, if we just stay in the present, just be present, be available, and just arrive so we can all share our energy and our presence together. With that, I'll continue. So just a quick word about myself. So I'm a technical nerd, worked at Procter Gamble in R&D for many years, and so was involved with product and process development with different Procter Gamble products. Apart from that, I also enjoy the arts, and I'm into theater, acting, and directing. And I'll take the liberty of doing a plug for our performance at the end of this, although many of you are not in the area, so it's really hard for you to participate. But this presentation will go onto YouTube, and so at some point you might be able to take a look at it. And I think it's relevant even for this group, so I'll bring it up at the end. So I also do a lot of community work, nonprofits, Indian community, the interfaith community, and also other organizations where I'm happy to be part of and help. And I think at this stage in my life, I retired 2 years ago from Procter Gamble for personal reasons. I'm focused on my own self-improvement and that of others. So I am a trainer, certified trainer in a course that I'll talk about called Search Inside Yourself. I did mentoring at Procter Gamble. I'm mentoring people now. I'm also a certified life coach, which I really enjoy. It's a wonderful process to help people find their own solution. So that's me in a nutshell. And as I grew up in India, I was exposed to a lot of meditation practices. And over the years, I went for so many different meditation schools and different exercises, different ways of meditating, and came up with my own system. At the PNG event, one of the directors said, I heard you meditate. Could you do a meditation at one of the leadership meetings? And I did. And that person said, why don't you offer it? So over 10 years, it's been continuing at Procter & Gamble, and many sites now have it. And so I really like the fact that, as Tahil said, even with corporate world and all the realities of what it takes to be in a corporate world, we can still find that balance and find time for practices like meditation, as you all have done today. So, how many of you actually meditate? Raise of hands, maybe? Oh, excellent. So, it's almost like everybody here, right? So, even so, I thought it might be good. I didn't know what the audience was going to be. So, I was going to start with what is meditation. And since it's a small interactive group, I'm happy to make it as interactive. Perhaps you have a definition of meditation. Would anybody like to share what meditation means to them? No right or wrong answers. It's okay.
Trying to quiet your mind so you can be more present,
Wonderful.
like
That's nice.
right in the moment.
Be in the moment. Excellent. What a
Right.
wonderful definition. Excellent. Excellent.
Shri, sometimes when I'm looking for an answer to something, I meditate on that issue or that problem to see if my inner voice could guide me to that answer.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Absolutely. And it's all good. You both are on track indeed. One way to think about it is we all know we will go to the gym, we take care of our body, but a lot of times we don't spend as much time to take care of our mind. So meditation is a way of kind of bringing the fitness of that mind, the wellness of that mind that we talked about. And here's a nice way of thinking about it. We hear a lot about mindfulness these days. And as Elaine said, being present. But are we really present? So this little graphic here shows our mind is full of things, right? So mindful, two words, and so many things. I just went to walk our dog, and you have to remind yourself that yes, there are thoughts and this chaotic environment that the mind can be, but it's also okay to be present and just enjoy nature and be mindful, one word. And typically, we're not in the present because we're agonizing about something that happened in the past, or we're ruminating and thinking about things that might come and what might or might not come, and so on. So, very often, we're either in the past or the present or the future, but really being available, being present, because this is the moment that we have. And so, here's another definition, if you will. And I think of mindfulness as just another form of meditation, of bringing one's attention to experiences in the present moment without judgment. That's the beauty that I think it should be looked at, that way. So to Elaine's point, yes, it is indeed being present, right? And I think we'll come back to what Bhaktavar said later on about finding answers as well. So we hear a lot about meditation, and many of us know it helps us, right? It's effective for reducing stress, worry. The World Health Organization said stress is the epidemic of the 21st century. And we know that our lives are so crazy, and we lack focus. We may have all sorts of problems. And so this is such a beautiful way to get focused. And the beauty of it is, as a scientist, there's so many papers and so much research that has happened now with brain mapping, with functional MRI, and so on. So very quickly, without getting into a lot of detail, although I'm happy to talk more. So if you look at three areas in the brain, one's what's called the default mode network. This is what the brain just does with the thoughts and thoughts. It just by default, a mind wanders, the self-referential thinking. It just kind of goes on and on. That's its job in a way. And what happens during meditation is that gets deactivated. So the kind of mind wandering gets reduced. And the good news from this particular study is that the control network, which is really important for focus and target, being aware of what's happening, that gets activated more. And the salience network, which is really your breathing and different functions like that, that gets activated too. So there's a lot of data which supports why practices like meditation are so beneficial. And as a nerdy scientist, this resonates with me. And anytime you have a question or you want to make a comment, it's all fair game. What percentage of the time do you think our mind wanders?
100.
Majority of time.
Majority of time. Thank you, Minji, if I'm saying your name correct. Yes, indeed. It's close to majority is the answer. The answer is, this is in a study when they looked at brain mapping and saying when you're doing nothing, if you were to not even really try to focus or something, about half the time the mind is just wandering, where really there's no focus. And this was studied. So having said that, we'll also take a look at some things about meditation that stop people or make them think twice about meditating. One is, I'm going to have to empty my mind. But that's not possible, really, because the mind will think, and the nature of the mind is to think. So that's not going to happen. But if we can try to do some control, some management of it, and we'll take a look at that some more. They think you have to get into the Padmasana or the lotus pose, and that's not true. You can just do it while walking, while sitting, whatever mode. It doesn't have to be in any yogic pose, for example. And chant in strange languages. You don't use Sanskrit or any other language if you don't want to. And it's an option, but it just could be anything like peace or joy, love, anything that's comfortable. And it's religious, it's not Hindu or Buddhist. It doesn't have to be. You can. It could be spiritual practice. We're part of the practices that makes it spiritual for one person. And then it's weird. And the funny thing about that is what's wrong with sitting and breathing? So really breathing. So it doesn't have to be anything but just a simple exercise where you collect yourself. So here are the sources. And I'm going to just take 1 second and close the door. 1 second. Sorry about that. My wife just came home. What are the reasons for meditating? We have a lot of them, but the biggest one is no time. We're all busy. We're all running around doing things and so on, right? But the most common thing that people will say to you is it's like sharpening the saw. You can keep cutting the wood, cutting the tree, whatever it is, hacking at it. But if you sharpen the saw, you'll probably be more effective. And I love this quote from Gandhi who said, I'm so busy today that I'm going to meditate 2 hours instead of 1. And it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it says that really when you need it, when you're more busy, actually the meditation helps you get more focused, get more effective. And I had so many people be part of my class, and this is an actual testimonial from one of them. And she said, I'm really appreciating the class because it's really helping me at work and be more effective. So encourage people. I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir maybe, but it's something to think about for us. Now, again, you probably already all meditate, you said, but any of these things can help you. Quiet place, comfortable positions, you're not getting physically distracted, maybe a mantra or just a focus, or even a question, that as Becca said, we'll talk about that. And just an open attitude. One analogy that's used is if you're at a train station and just standing train comes and goes, and just watch and be a witness. So just different thoughts for people. We will get into a small meditation practice, and this talks about thoughts. So you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. So that's one way to think about it. It's the thoughts are going to be there. The mind is going to be active, and yet, what can we do with those thoughts? We can watch them. We can just navigate them, if you will. Let's do a little practice, and just like working out in the gym, this is also something that can be practiced and honed. And then later we'll talk about our experience. The simple process we'll use is we'll use the breath. The breath is a very good gateway to the mind. So we'll follow the breath first, and there will be a distraction. It could be a physical distraction, it could be something in the environment, a sound outside, or it could be a thought. But we just notice the distraction. We don't need to do anything. We don't need to associate with it. We just notice it and then just bring our attention back to the breath. So that's the simple model that we'll follow. And we'll try to keep it short, but I'd love for you to experience this. And many of you said you already meditate, but let's just do it together and see even if this small and short practice can be beneficial. So again, if you could find a place where you are comfortable, I like to ask you if you can keep your back straight, which might mean sitting at the edge of the chair. It might mean just keeping the back straight, allowing the shoulders to relax, the stomach to relax, and just bringing your awareness to perhaps the spot between the eyebrows. We call it the third eye. It's also the Agnya chakra. And it's a very powerful energy center, just a place to focus on. And invite you to go within. It's all you, it's your inner potential. There's really nothing to fear, nothing weird about it. So just the ability to be completely at one with oneself. And let's begin by noticing the breath. Just notice the warm air coming in, and then the even warmer air going out. Just notice the next inhalation, and then let the exhalation go. With the next breath, let's bring in openness and curiosity, and just let go of anything we don't need. Just bringing in notice of the breath and more loving kindness for ourselves and others. Just letting go of anything even remotely negative. Just bringing in more positivity with the next inhalation. And just letting go of anything even remotely negative. So let's kind of see if we can keep our focus on the breath. And it's very likely that we will get distracted. And if we do, just bring the attention back to the breath, noticing the inhalation, noticing the exhalation. And if there's another thought that comes, just notice that thought. But let's just move our attention back to the breath. Inhalation, the exhalation. Just allowing the breath to really enrich us, energize us. And if there is any distraction, just going back to the breath. When we are ready, we can come back as a group. I've kept it short because I'm not sure how long people are comfortable with, but many of you can go on, I'm sure. Just want to see how that short exercise was for you. Did that help you calm down? Was the mind quieter than before? How was that? Love to hear comments.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you,
Yeah.
Elaine.
Yeah, it felt very relaxing in the
Great.
mind and
Thank you,
body.
Becca. And body, nice. Anybody else? Since it's a small group, love to hear from others too. Tahil and Minji, if I'm saying your names correct.
Oh, I
Not
think
able to.
a little, yeah, it was a little, like I kept thinking about the same thing, but I kind of tried to just watch instead of just following the thoughts. Yeah.
Good, good. And just as you have this symbol here, you want to build biceps, you have to keep doing curls. This is a practice and it'll get better with time. And even after years and years of meditation, my mind still has a lot of thoughts. And so it just helps us get quieter and get more focused. Yeah. Good. Thank you all for sharing your comments. Um, I'm going to move to this course that I mentioned earlier. It's called Search Inside Yourself. And the beauty of this course is that it's all about searching within oneself to become more effective. And what they found is leaders are those who have very high emotional intelligence. We're all born with a certain intelligence quotient or IQ, and that's fixed. It's more or less fixed. But EQ can be enhanced, can be honed. And the beauty of this hypothesis was that Google put a lot of money into this particular paradigm and was able to prove it. So let's take a look at that. They thought that mindfulness and meditation can help hone one's emotional intelligence. And that was the hypothesis that they were able to prove. So effectively, what it was, this whole program is like, okay, if we looked at mindfulness and mapped it with neuroscience, right? Understand what happens in the brain, how are people functioning? And we already saw one data set that I shared, where when people meditate, different parts of the brain respond differently. Like the default mode network, which is the mind wandering, quiets down. Other areas that bring more focus get more enhanced. So there's a lot of neuroscience that supported this hypothesis that practices like meditation can indeed increase emotional intelligence. Let's learn a little bit more. And this is, again, as I said, something that started at Google, and that's why Google search inside yourself. And there's a very nice book by the main person, Chade Meng Tan. He was a Google fellow, and he convinced Google to spend lots of money, get world-class experts to design this course. I'm certified in this course. I offered 18 sessions as a trainer in PNG, and I'm also offering that outside. It can be done for free for nonprofits. So if the groups that are interested in this particular training, it's a full 2-day session. You can also do a shorter versions, but the real full-day training, 2-day training is really, really effective. So something for you to think about, and it can be done at no cost except whatever costs that mean expenses we need to cover. But so this is the basis. And what it's basically talking about is this uncertainty that Tahil talked about, the times that we live in and so on. There's so much complexity, so much sense of being overwhelmed. And so how do we use our own human-centered skills, such as emotional intelligence, to cope and even to thrive? And emotional intelligence is a key. And here's one definition: the ability to monitor one's own and others' feelings, emotions, to discriminate among them, to use this information to guide one's thinking and action. Very often something happens, we just give a knee-jerk reaction. But can we respond? Can we be able to collect ourselves? And this is that mindfulness practice that can help. So often it's very tempting and very natural sometimes to just react, right? And all of us do that. But can we be more deliberate in what we do? So that's one way to think about EQ. And the person who popularized emotional intelligence, his name was Daniel Goleman. He's very well-known professor. And he divided it into four areas. One is self-awareness, just becoming aware. And this is what meditation really does, just becoming aware of oneself. And then being able to manage oneself. Not easy all the time, but at least from a position of strength. Then becoming aware of others, empathizing with others, having compassion for others. And then this is where the interfaith people can connect more so with others and then manage those interactions. So these are the four aspects that this course really touches upon. As you might have guessed, maybe I'll ask the group, what benefits do you think there is from being more emotionally intelligent?
I think
We're just,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
but we're just, assaulted with things that just tweak our emotions to that. I mean, there's just a lot of bad stuff out there, and just being able to not react to it quite so much because you can't really change a lot of it. And it just makes life hard when you're constantly reacting to what comes up on your scroll. It's just really bad.
Absolutely. And this goes back to what was said, to be able to discriminate among everything else, right? What's coming from outside, what's coming from within, and to navigate more effectively. So that's definitely one benefit. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Elaine. I think, did Carol have a comment?
Well, I was just going to say it could help you to better control your responses, so that and to notice for yourself when you're being tweaked.
Nice, very nice.
And
Absolutely.
it could improve our relationships with others.
Absolutely. Totally, totally. Very nice comments. You're all on the money. So I'll talk about the three major benefits. There are lots of benefits, but in studies, they found these were the three. So going back to Tahil's title for the talk that he suggested, well-being, right? So it does help because what happens is when you feel like you're in control, you're not just being jerked by anything that comes around and you're not just doing whatever comes up and reacting. There's a sense of well-being because mental well-being and then it also helps with physical well-being. The other thing they found is, and this is all research, there's a lot of data supporting it, that the people who started to do more emotional intelligent practices and were more emotional intelligent were able to do well. And those who are CEOs or whatever, even leaders in anything that they do, CEOs of their own lives, their nonprofits, whatever group, the people who have more EQ are able to manage their own situations, themselves and others better. So they're able to perform better, therefore. And then I think many of you talked about this, relationships, dealing with others. They're really outstanding leaders. And leaders in a sense of not just a title, but leaders of our lives, leaders who show the way for others and for themselves. So in a very generic sense. And what have you observed? I think in a way, this is, when you think of some outstanding leaders, what is it that you see in them? What quality resonates with you?
Humility.
Very nice, beautiful. Anything else?
Seeking input.
Seeking input from others.
Well, equanimity, that they don't get thrown off balance by things. You can't really be a good leader if everything's pulling you around.
Absolutely. It's so hard sometimes, right? When you're really getting pulled in all directions. Yeah, they're able to find that balance within themselves, the equanimity, the humility, and just being able to manage situations. So actually the point I was trying to make there is it's not IQ. So you see, the point is it's really EQ. All these are qualities. Just because you're academically brilliant, it doesn't help you to necessarily be humble or to be able to, stop yourself from being pulled in every direction. Your intelligence only goes so far. It's necessary. Nobody's saying it's not good or necessary, but the EQ is what really keeps you thriving. And the beauty of it is those who are leaders, who have the mindfulness and therefore the emotional intelligence, are leaders who support others to thrive. So they thrive and they help others thrive. And that's the beauty of what the research has shown, that EQ and the ability to increase one's EQ through meditation is the way to thrive. And lots of data. Here's one example. This was from the Search Inside Yourself course. What they found is, and this was thousands of thousands, 10,000 people, where they said before, when they talked about their increased ability to maintain calm and poise in challenging situations, about 50% said they did it, but then almost a 20% increase after the course. So there are courses and the ability to hone one's emotional intelligence. Similarly, a 20-point increase, and I'm able to pause before reacting, which is so hard for all of us, right? We just want to kind of, especially when you're triggered or you're perturbed, you want to just like do something or say something or dash off an email or do something like that. So we'll take a look at that too. And in this course, again, if there's ever interest, we can do more about this course. There are practices called in the moment, which means as you're triggered or as you're in a situation, you can just take a brief pause and do it, like the minute to arrive practice we did at the beginning. It's just a very short practice, just helps one to be grounded. And the other hand, there could be practices that could be long meditation. It's like being in the gym for a while, right? And these are more dedicated that get honed over time. I'm going to give you an example. I will do this. And to set the scope for that, essentially what it is we all will have threats. And typically it was flight, freeze, or flee, right? But I'm sorry, flight of or freeze kind of thing before. But and then there's just the affective state in the brain. Excuse me. So this triggers something in our brain, and this is normal, it's natural. But do we regulate that? Do we modulate it? And this is where the meditation comes in, and where the neuroscience shows that it's possible to do that. There's one tool that we use in this course, and I found it to be very effective. It could be an integrated tool. So in other words, if there's a trigger that's happening in the moment, these 5 steps could be used. I'm getting triggered by something in my throat right now. So stop, breathe, notice what's happening within, the emotions or whatever's coming up. Just reflect. Is it important? Do I need to do something? What's going on? And then respond. And it might seem like 5 big steps. No, actually, this can be very quick. And the more you do it more often, it becomes second nature, it becomes easy. So it could be done in the moment. And it also could be something that's done when there's a real problem that you want resolution. So in other words, a difficult situation, a difficult conversation, this could be a preparation for that. Becca mentioned like you're trying to find solution for something, right? This could be a way dealing with somebody or dealing with the situation. So this SBNRR, it's an acronym, and we remember it by saying somebody needs rest and relaxation, if that helps you remember that, SBNRR. So what we'll do is, let's just do a short practice. What I'd ask you to do is think of a situation, nothing too crazy, where you probably have got triggered or feeling triggered, feel like, this is bothering you, right? Could be a person, could be a situation, could be something in the world. And let's just go through the 5 steps together. So does everybody have a situation that they can bring to mind? If you need a minute to think, stop.
I have an example that I could
Okay.
use.
Okay.
On just a couple of days ago, I went to a protest, and there was a moment where someone tried to drive up very close to the other protesters and began verbally shouting at each other, which led to a lot of sort of that sort of paralysis in the moment of observing what's going on.
Yeah.
And it ended up being very triggering.
Yeah. And you can see how that could lead to all sorts of things possibly, right? And yet if somebody stays calm and tries to help resolve. Good. That's a great example, Tahil. So if you have your own example or you want to use what Tahil said, just keep that in mind. So let's imagine, if you'd like, you can close your eyes. Imagine yourself in that situation or your own situation. And rather than doing anything, saying anything, or reacting, if you could just stop, just this sacred pause, take a deep breath. Notice what's happening. To borrow from Tahil's situation, perhaps a little bit of unrest in the mind, anger, sadness, even frustration, whatever it is, so some combination of feelings, perhaps emotions. And then reflect, what should be my response? Do I need to respond? Will it be beneficial? What do I make of the situation? Is it something that needs to be said or done? And then coming up with a more measured thought, there can be the response that can actually be put into practice. Then whenever you're ready, you can come out of it. If anybody would like to share, Sahil, if I may pick on you, since you brought up the situation, did this exercise help give you a little bit more clarity?
I think it definitely did, as it gave me an opportunity to, I think what we often don't get to do, which is slow down in a moment,
Yes,
because we
exactly.
always have to feel immediately triggered or immediately reactive to something. It gave me a moment to look back to sort of think about, okay, what led to this? How are we thinking about this going forward? Because this is not the last time something that's happening. But it's also given me an opportunity to remember that it also gives me a point of discernment to be able to say what are the ways that I can know going forward that I can engage so I can be better and more present in the moment.
Wonderful. And you said it well. This is the whole idea, right? Just that little pause, just collecting ourselves and seeing more clarity rather than just acting out of impulse. Thank you, Tahir. Thank you for that. Anybody else have a comment or an experience they want to share?
Again, I would say that, when you're, especially in moments of confrontational conversations, um, this is such a great exercise to not be in a rush to speak what first comes to mind,
Yeah,
but take a pause, think about it, reflect, and say something which will not end up hurting anyone in that moment.
beautiful, beautiful, true, well said. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, go ahead, please.
I think the scenario is important because in the case of a protest where you're being confronted, perhaps feeling almost threatened, it's very hard to give yourself that moment. Whereas if you are being confronted, for example, by a member of your family or by another customer in the store or whatever. That's more of a one-on-one, and you can kind of take charge of that situation and yourself. So I feel like I think that especially for me, when I'm being triggered or feeling threatened, my brain goes into hyper alert, and time just seems to, I don't know, evaporate. Like I lose track of everything. So I feel like even with, let's say that I'm with a family member who's confronting me, I feel like it's fair to say, please give me a minute. That way they know that you're not just like backing off or turning away or doing something like that. So I hope I don't find myself in a threatened situation.
Yeah.
And we've been actually taught by the group who has attended these protests how to respond, but
Right.
it still is upon us. The onus is on us to do it, to handle it well.
Absolutely. And I think you said it so well, Carol. In certain situations, you have the luxury, and you can even say to a family member, I need a minute. And what I'll offer to you is, even under times when there may be the protest or you think you don't have the time, if you look at certain people, they will take that momentary time. I've seen a CEO, for example, who was confronted with a very difficult question, and I could see that person repeated the question, right? And used that time to just collect himself. So there are techniques where this SPNRR can be put into practice. And the more you do it, it becomes skillful. So for example, going back to the CEO, there was so much agitation, there was so much, and it was almost like somebody was getting violent. But he just said, okay, so your question is this, and just said it very slowly to give himself time. And I could see what was going on in his mind. It wasn't about really repeating the question, but buying time. So maybe there are things that we could do, and by practice, it gets better. If that makes sense. Yeah. But it's easier in certain situations than others. I agree. Excellent. So this is the tool. And again, opening it up for comments and questions. We can talk more and more. There's a lot of evidence, a lot of data, a lot of stuff in the course. But just wanted to give you an idea and learn from each other. Any comments or questions?
Just want to show my appreciation for this hour that you took your time out for all of us. Really, thank you so much for reminding us and teaching us some new things today.
Thank you, Bhaktar. And I learned too, because, the conversations and everybody brings something, right? Everybody's a student and a teacher. So really, really enjoy this group, and just the fact that we can share our perspectives together and the time together. Anybody else have a comment or question as we move to wrap up?
I have to admit that I am so non-confrontational that I will basically avoid. And that does not, I mean, in some ways I feel, in some ways after the fact, I often, in fact, think to myself, oh, I could have said this, or I should have said this, or whatever. But for my own self, for my well-being, honestly, it is not worth it to me to get my blood pressure up, to get all agitated, my stomach upset, or whatever the reaction is. And I guess I have to weigh that always. That I am basically, I'm always weighing what is it worth it to me. Before I engage.
Very fair. And thank you for being so vulnerable and honest, candid. And if you don't mind, I'm going to take that a little deeper. In this course, we actually look at what emotional intelligence means, right? Because in difficult situations, avoidance is one tactic, of course, but is that disengagement really productive? Or are you feeling after the fact, oh, maybe I should have said something, maybe I should have done something? And many of you might have looked or read the book Quiet. I think Susan Cain is the author. It talks about introverts, and a lot of introverts, including me. I mean, I can be introverted quite a bit. Here's what I could have said. I wish I had done something, right? And at the same time, maybe in that moment, I can think what it is. Is this cause important? Is it larger than me? And maybe it's not about me, but maybe it's something that I need to do. And these are questions that we all have to make choices for ourselves. And can we make it in the moment and live with that, right? So I'd offer to you that this might be a thing for you to think about. It's easy to avoid sometimes. Maybe that's the smartest thing to do, right? Rather than get into the confrontation, just walk away or just protect oneself or disengage. But is that the best in every situation? Or is it like, okay, taking time to ruminate or think about alternatives, get back? So just offering this for discussion. And one example I use is Gandhi, for example, where he'd say when he felt a lot of anger, he would channel that anger and say, you know what? I will resist, but I will resist in my own way, in my own non-violent way. And I will definitely stand up, but I will not do it the way they are triggering me to do it or the way that I'm not comfortable doing. So that might be a choice for some of us sometimes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your vulnerability and for that question. Thank you. Anybody else? And you feel free to disagree too. It's okay.
I would add one more thing that I am being reminded. I've been reading other books, particularly in Buddhist philosophy, which are encouraging me to consider the other's position, to consider, and in some ways, particularly, I'm sorry, right now, in some ways, I feel like I can't even get myself anywhere near toward what it seems like other people are working from. So I get it that I'm giving, what I feel like I'm giving them is an acknowledgement that my background is so different. And I don't know that I'm not in any way asking them to consider my background, but rather I'm needing to acknowledge to myself that my background has shaped where I'm at, and I am working very hard at not judging, but rather considering.
So true, so true. And it's very difficult, especially with some people, you cannot believe that they do things and what are they thinking and if they're thinking at all, right? Kind of thing. I'll give you an example. Becca might be familiar with this, but in our Cincinnati community, there have been sessions that have promoted dialogue, and she's a big one promoting dialogue among the faiths. So there was this group from Israel and Palestine, and the group is people who have suffered family losses. So in other words, who lost children or something like that. So initially, there's always so much, right? But once they started talking, they realized there is common ground, there is similarity, and that they could start to build a bond and say, why are we doing this to each other? So hard, right? Because we all can be so hard-nosed and our positions can be so kind of drawn in the sand, in the line in the sand kind of thing. But yet, it was so exhilarating and what's the word, not humanizing to see these people say, we were able to get together and actually learn from them. That it's difficult but possible. Thank you again, Carol. Anybody else have a comment or thought? All right. I did want to make a plug for our play. And the reason I bring that up is it's called Dance Like a Man, but it touches upon gender, touches upon societal expectations. And it's, of course, in the Cincinnati area. And I'm directing the play. My wife is one of the choreographers and dancer. So it's very exciting for our community group that we're doing this in English, and that it talks about something that is important, identity and gender and expectations of ourselves and our society. So just wanted to make a plug for that. I know it's not easy for everybody to show up for the play, but if you know somebody in the area, please let them know. And a thought for you as we part. And thank you, Tahil, for arranging, Becca supporting, and you all for joining.
Of course, thank you, Shriji, for the opportunity to, I think, really learn about how we are needing to engage in the importance of living in the moment, but not in a way that stresses us out any more than necessary. But it actually helps us reevaluate some of the ways that we are taking time to breathe, living into our bodies, living into our systems, and then living into our spirits as well. I think we oftentimes get so caught up with everything going on that we feel like slowing down is actually a burden and an obstacle, not an opportunity to build resilience. Um, so I think it's really important how you've highlighted that in a number of different ways, and I appreciate especially the approach that you discussed earlier of, being able to pause, being able to take a breath, taking the time to reflect, and then, being able to live into the moment to respond to something. Oftentimes we take those kinds of moments for granted and feel like we're good at the fly, but actually, it takes wonders to actually think about what 15 seconds, 30 seconds, even a minute, if you have the chance to be able to make a pause and actually think differently before you make a response so that you feel more prepared, you feel more in the moment, and actually more cognizant of what you're addressing, which is always one of the biggest challenges that we have. So thank you for bringing that expertise into this space. Thank you for giving us the opportunity also to put that into practice. I think many folks will value that because they haven't done that today, this week, this year, for that matter. So thank you so much. And we're thankful to our participants and especially Becca Ji, Bhaktavar Desai, who is one of our other board members on the call today. For making sure that we continue to support each other in the work. And please, for those of you that are still here, remember that you can check out our website at oxfordinterfaithcenter.org to be able to check out any upcoming programs. And you could visit our YouTube channel to be able to see many of the previous programs that we've done on similar topics and topics that, kind of sit completely on the other side of this. So take the opportunity to check out our content, stay connected with us to find out what we're doing, and we hope to see you all soon. Thank you so much. And thank you again, Shriji, for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shri. Thank you, Tahil, and everyone.